Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
There's a swing and a drive to right field. That's hit back. It's a gunner. A home run for Alec Burleson. The Cardinals are on the board with 2 outs in the 8th.
1-1 pitch. Hit down the left field line. It is back. It is gone. A 2-homer game for Joey Weimer. And the Brewers have hung a 10 spot on Baltimore.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. And that's hit in the air to deep left center field. Kelnick's going to go back. He's on the warning track. Looking up. Going to go. Gary Sanchez at it again. A 3-run home run. And the Padres rally with 2 outs here in the 3rd inning and extend their lead. It's 4-0.
Grand throws. Swinging a high drive in the air to right. Moving back Kepler to the track, to the wall. Gone! Randy Arozarena walked it off, and the Rays defeat the Twins 2-1.
Murray behind the nail. Lost the basketball, got it back, throws it off over to Joker. Down low to Jeff Green. Kick out over to Murray, and a 3. Yes! That's a big bucket there, boy. 37-36. That'll shut the crowd up for a moment. Jovic back over to Yurtsev. That one's on the way. That one misses. Rebound down to Jamal Murray. And that is a triple-double for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic in the same game. And there's the horn. Denver takes game 3 in Miami.
I mean, this is the right time. If you're going to play your best basketball, I think this is the right time to play your best basketball. But I think, like you said, the team is really important. Yes, a couple of guys maybe didn't make shots or didn't play well, but there's another guys who can step up and fill the position and be even better.
Hey, good morning. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, back on a Thursday, which I kind of screwed myself this week, DB, because on Tuesday I said it was Wednesday, and then...
Are you messed up now?
Yeah, because now it's just like today should be Friday in my head, and it's Thursday, so I got to wake up again.
It's already... I thought it was Friday, too, man. I got up and... Well, I didn't really think it was Friday. I knew it was Thursday, but I'm treating it like Friday. Just because we...
It's kind of how I feel.
Just because Breeze and I have to get on the road.
Hey, you guys are making the big drive tomorrow.
Chicago. He doesn't play until 11 on Saturday.
Okay.
But he goes 11, 2, and 5.
I do know what I know.
The downside, and we've done this for however many years. So the downside of not having a Friday out-of-town game is you'll play 3 on Saturday, and you'll get the early slate if you advance in the bracket round on Sunday. So that's the trade-off.
Okay.
Right? Like if you play a Friday night game, you'll probably play 2 on Saturday and get the 10 o'clock on Sunday. But yeah, we got the oily one on Sunday.
So what is early on Sunday? 8?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, but it's only an 11-minute drive to
still getting up that early.
Illinois Basketball Academy is where we play. But so here's the funny thing. So when he sent me the schedule, I go, oh man, I said, for Chicago, that schedule actually works out well. 6.5 hour drive back. We could be back by, I can't remember what
5:30.
See, I said that, and he said, Dad, there's bracket play. Like, my bad. This dude expects to be playing a couple games.
We're staying.
It's just funny how he said it. Like he's like, and he said the I'm like, this little chump.
You counting us out, Dad?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, my bad. Although, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind being on the interstate
at 10 o'clock.
So I'm already looking at. I'm weird, right? This just in. I'm already looking at if we don't win on Sunday morning. I'm looking at places to grab breakfast on the fly and go, because I'm telling you, I don't know if anybody else has this problem that travels with their kids, But the back and forth on whether to get something on the road and go or sit down and eat or where that's going to be and if it's on the way out of town often wastes a lot more time than just getting on the road.
Yeah.
That
to me seems like the obvious. Just go through a drive-through and
listen,
go.
man, we found a Jack in the Crack. I can't remember where we were. Someplace that had Jack in the Cracks, or Jack in the Box, but we drove like 18 minutes out of the way because people wanted Jack in the Box breakfast. I'm like, what kind of sucker am I for doing this? This isn't even remotely.
How did I get roped into this?
This isn't even remotely on the way.
Nor is it probably what you want for breakfast.
Hey, but quiet as kept though. Jack in the Box has some good breakfast.
Yeah, they also have a really good munchie box to close down a day.
What's a munchie box?
It's where when it's about to close,
like Taco Bell's pick six or something like that.
They just basically throw everything into a box, and they're like, we need this to go before tomorrow's
This
day.
is for the tokers. Take this and go. Stay green, pony boy. Stay green.
Yeah.
Shane, I know it was gold. Don't call me out on that.
Ooh, speaking of gold, how about the
it was
haze
gold.
in New
It was
York
absolute
yesterday?
gold.
Oh, so didn't those pictures look photoshopped?
Yes.
It looked like it was going to be a bad Stephen King movie or something. Like whoever
looked like a zombie apocalypse.
Shane, who wrote The Fog or who made The Fog?
Mist?
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
Jonathan Carpenter.
Yeah, The Mist. The Fog. Yeah,
The Mist was Stephen King, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those guys.
That movie was ridiculously bad.
Yeah, it's weird. So watch that. I'm not gonna lie, on Netflix, on the road at a basketball tournament almost a year ago.
The Mist, or
it was yes. So it was the one where they
hide out in the grocery store.
Yes,
dude, such a bad movie.
Hey, so your boy late because there was a fight that night too. I can't remember who fought that night. I watched boxing. Of course, couldn't go to bed with where those hotel pillows where you lay your head down and he like automatically goes through the pillow into the mattress.
Yeah, you're on the mattress.
They're like razor thin. So I watched
even
that.
When you stack them.
I put Netflix on the TV with my accountant and says, "Are you home or are you traveling? Temporary?" But anyway, I was like, "Yeah, temporary. Get to where I'm going." I watched that sad show, and I can't tell you how often. During like a 25-minute stretch, I wanted him to just punch the lady in the grocery store dead smack in the right under the throat. I'm like,
just knock her out.
Why is she rallying? She's like promoting a mutiny. Shut your mouth, lady. And sure enough, she ended up getting it. But man, was she driving me bonkers. Anyway, I don't know why I just went off on a tangent on a terrible movie. Not that that's never happened
I think
before.
It was on DVD at the time. He got it from somebody at work. Oh, it's the best scary movie out there.
Was it Ice Cube, Gorillas in the Mist? Or was it a different
one?
Yeah. Shane, do you like that album?
The Gorillas? Yeah, I like the Gorillas.
No, the song was Gorillas in the Mist. It's Ice Cube.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
dad
back to Barry, who's probably not listening to Cube. Well, go ahead.
He gets this movie from a coworker of his saying it's the best scary movie out there. Like, you guys have to watch. You guys love scary movies. Watch it. So we're like, great. We sit down, no previews, no nothing, put it in. The movie ends because we're the type of people that have to watch the movie. Bad. You're just fighting through over there.
I just wish if you buy a powdered drink, it would not clump up. Like, just mix. Is it that hard? Can you do something with the compounds?
Yeah, a lot of protein shakes are that way too. Like, you have to shake it for days in order to get it.
This tastes like grade A trash.
Put one of those the protein balls in there, like the
how
drink
about how
balls,
yesterday it made me sick, kind of.
The blender ball.
I was like, yeah, this is kind of making
no big deal.
Squeamish.
Yeah, you had to go places yesterday.
I know. Hey, man,
you were all over the place.
It's tough.
You had to drop the kids off somewhere, and then you came back here for preps, and then you went to the meeting, and you were everywhere yesterday.
Dude, that meeting, it was like the Energizer Bunny. It just kept going, and I look.
Well, there's a lot of people in the meeting too, and that's another reason why it goes.
I think we should do formal introductions. There were some people in there I didn't know. Did you hear me ask the young guy? I was like, "Hey, man, who are you?" And he doesn't know me, so he's probably like, "What an idiot! Like, why doesn't he just say
what a jerk?" One of the two.
But I asked Sauter, I was like, "Hey, who's the new guy?" And he must have heard me. I was like, "Hey, who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we should meet.
Hey.
Yeah, he was in the office when I first got there, and I go, "Hey, I'm Andrew." He goes, "Hey, I'm Colin."
Yep, that's
to
what
meet
it
you,
was.
man.
It was. So and the only reason I remembered his name is because there's an all-star baseball game here. It's called the Colin Orchid. They pick
because that's how you attach things to
Yeah.
something else so you can remember.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he had a little C around his neck.
Uh-huh.
So I do pay attention to detail.
Went to Creighton.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Played club soccer. I got the whole.
See, you're doing
whole
too
thing.
much. You're doing baby steps, man.
No way.
Don't
man.
just inundate a guy or
I'm
gal when they
intrusive.
first get here.
You know me. I'm
Yeah,
nosy.
you're a nosy son of a gun, man.
I'm getting
You
your
got-
life story.
You got that right.
Why are you doing that? Hold on.
It's because I like
so,
it.
so
I like to know those things.
people like our rapport with Joel. Like he's not like that all other times. I'm like, man, sometimes
we
you just got to
we
get him
do a
to
lot.
go
We
there.
open him up.
We mess with him.
Yeah, we poke him. Well, it started with, "Hey, Joel, stop yawning during our interviews."
Stop laughing.
And then it turned into, "Hey, I was up 5 minutes ago."
Hey, there was no NBA to keep me up last night.
Right.
Hey, but full disclosure,
Oh, yeah.
I feel compelled to let you get back to your very scary movie
Okay,
story.
To end my story here, we watched this movie from start to finish, and when my dad says, "Man, that was bad," it was bad.
Yeah, I've
And
only
we
walked
both-
out of one movie ever.
We both bonded over it, but see, I'm the type of person that has to finish.
So, what
I
was
have
the
to finish
bad
the
movie that you wanted to see with Mary-Kate and Ashley, and it had the Taken guy in it?
Liam Neeson, that I wanted to see.
You saw it, and you're like, man, was it terrible?
Oh, it was the older film, right? The
Yeah.
one that was
You just saw it last year.
Yeah,
It was set in
man.
like the
It's that
40s
bad.
or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. by
And
the
you're
older
like,
film.
I don't know, DB. Like, I just had to power through it. It was terrible.
Oh,
It was
wasn't-
tough.
It wasn't good. We were an
Listen.
hour in, and I'm like, she's like, "Do you want to leave?" Because she could tell that.
Oh, yeah, your boy, I'll biggity bounce. You ain't got to ask me twice.
And I'm like, "No, we paid $14 for these seats or whatever because they're the ones that recline at AMC.
Yeah.
We're not over at the Alamo like
Zoe and Sophie.
Caleb's friend. So I'm like, I want the seats that can kick my feet up. I take a little nappy poo if I need to.
Well, I walked out. I got my little happy behind and walked out of The Watchmen. One of the worst movies that I have ever sat through in a theater. I felt like I was about at the 3-hour mark of a 6-hour movie. I'm like, what is this? Dances with Wolves?
Marlowe, that was the movie.
Oh yeah,
Marlowe, because he was a detective.
Yeah,
Not great.
I walked out.
Wouldn't
of The Watchmen.
recommend that movie.
But it's just crazy. And so folks obviously like our interaction with Joel, and people like Schaefer better in person. I'm like, he's like that even when we get him in. Remember, he's the guy that prefers to be on StreamYard because he likes the personal interaction. Schaefer was funny yesterday.
I remember when he told me, like, "Hey, Andrew, I thought you were going to go in on Knighton," saying like, "Oh, well, he may have had a good NFL career, but did you see him when he started coaching?"
Yeah, that's a grown ass man.
Like, that's his personality.
Hey, how about Knighton on Twitter yesterday with the hashtag 20?
Yeah.
The hash. What is it? What are they saying for the 20? What are they saying for the
25
20
crew?
Yeah, 25 crew.
Right.
It's 25
versus 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one do you like more?
Well, Caleb likes the 24 hours.
I kind of like that more too.
I'll go with 24 hours. I don't really care, to be honest.
Oh,
but
you're not one to pinpoint what hashtag's better than the other.
No, but then again, he's down there tomorrow flipping.
Yeah, you had that
all day with Cooper.
That hype on social media yesterday.
What was that? Oh yeah. The
regarding the 25
recruiting hype.
Yeah. For me, like sometimes though, I'm just like, guys, like let's wait for the player to do it. Like let the player.
Okay, I get it.
Guy.
I get it. I'm with you. Don't.
Like, it's his moment.
Let the player shoot his shot. But I do think sometimes the players kind of like the speculation. It's kind of a weird week for Coach Rule, right? Like he's obviously not playing. Remember yesterday I talked about this was ominous foreshadowing, right? I said camping versus glamping.
Yes, you did.
Glamping is like fake camping. You're not really roughing it.
Camping that I do. Fake camping.
When Coach Rule camps, Oh, he's camping. He's looking for something. And I think there are a lot of people that figured that out over the last week. And there'll be a couple of people that will recruit this next or commit to schools, some Nebraska, some other places, in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to sort itself out. Because all the homers that make excuses for people and say, when he could potentially go to Nebraska, it's and he and then they'll go someplace else and say, oh man, see, just didn't add up. But then guys that they didn't really like that will say yes to Nebraska, it'll be like, oh man, can't wait. So I can't wait because so far, and I said this yesterday on yes, I don't know who I was talking to, SIP, maybe somebody online, and I'm like, you know what? As far as I can tell, there's not a lot of these recruitniks that have it right.
Wow.
Just kind of based on the limited information I have, right?
Yeah.
But it will reveal itself. And how about the conversation that I had with Shafe off air? He talked about he was at Westside. And I said, hey, I'm going to tell you about a guy. No one is talking about this guy.
You talking about Cotton?
Keenan Cotton. I told this to Schaefer a week ago, right? Because that's why I love Shafe. He wants to do his homework. He always wants different angles. So I said, hey, pay attention to this guy, pay attention to this guy, pay attention to this guy. Those guys are off the grid. Like, you want to go first, focus on that guy. Or these guys. And that guy got an offer.
Yeah, I did. I saw that.
And I thought the offer was a little early because he missed a fair amount of games. But Keenan Cotton has, I call him Masterpiece.
Iowa State.
I call him because KC Masterpiece. But he knows I don't like barbecue sauce. But I love him. So I've called him Masterpiece from the jump. Doesn't talk. He just smiles. I just started stealing hugs like a couple of months ago. His dad, Curtis Cotton, former player, super quiet. His mom is like God's gift. A little itty bitty thing, just very good natured. And KC, I'm telling you, is another one of these dogs in 25 that is going to be part of a very, very good crew. But Iowa State went first, man. And they should. They're always here. Right?
Yeah, when are they not? I feel like Matt Campbell camps here.
Listen,
in the state.
They have, again, there'll be some story to tell when all this whole thing is over in this next couple of recruiting cycles. And I don't know how effective or they'll be, but it won't be due to lack of presence for Iowa State. There are a couple schools like that I just feel like are constantly here. And they just put pressure on you. And he ended up getting an offer, and Nebraska's got about 18 DBs on the radar, which is funny too because that obviously is close to home, right? So you have these conversations, and who knows? I'm not going tomorrow. This is intentional, like because I want to get on the road early, right? But he's with Coach Coop pretty much in the morning. And I got to thinking, he said, hey, I'm going down to Nebraska tomorrow. First he said the 7th, right? They were going to do something with film, but Coop wasn't going to be back yet. And then he told him, hey, I'll be back. I'll be down on Friday. And I got to thinking, he told me last night in the kitchen, I'm like, has this dude ever driven on the interstate? I know he's been on Dodge Expressway, but like, I'm not going to be here. Like, this dude's just going to be rolling back and forth to Lincoln. Like, are we good? Are we good?
Are you good with it?
I don't care. I mean, it's fine.
I had to take an interstate driving class when I grew up.
And he had to, too. He did the whole driver's ed. He's the type of kid that'll put that thing on 79 and chill. No, I'm not kidding.
I'm for it.
His brother asked him for a ride till he has workouts this afternoon with the other St. Louis fan, Jordan. And he asked Caleb for a ride. He said, Micah, I'm not trying to get gas until tomorrow. I have 107 miles left, and that includes a trip to Lincoln and back. We'll see.
Okay.
I said, that is my son. So it's a crazy recruiting week.
Yeah.
And then Schaefer called his shots. He was pleasantly surprised. Because I'm telling you, like, obviously you know these teams, right? I'm like, Millard South feels underrepresented in the recruiting cycle. I've said that like for a month or two. And I'm going to say it again. Millard South is grossly underappreciated in the recruiting cycle. They have a lot of good players. Bellevue West found that out yesterday. Bellevue West has a lot of good. There's just these schools. There's a lot of good players. Millard North kind of underrepresented for all the love that Vermont and Newberry get. They're still underrepresented. Like it's going to be very interesting. And we were talking about the Davon Hall news. Sauter should have broke the story.
He should have. He had it.
Sauter should have broke the story. But we'll let him talk about that tomorrow. Can you see this dude just picking up the phone? He's like, "Damn it!"
I can hear him calling in now.
And he
calling in now.
Full disclosure, right? Like he didn't want to put it out there because he thought he maybe made a mistake in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
But as Davon Hall pretty much says, yep,
he was open and honest about it.
Yep, not coming to Nebraska, no official. They just aren't really interested.
Mm-hmm.
Peace.
I can see, though, with Sauter being such a relationship guy.
Correct.
He doesn't want to. Because if he were to post that, and maybe there was a conversation of, hey, man, like, just don't put that out if you don't mind. Like, and I don't think there was, because I think Sauter just made the executive decision just to withhold that relationship. But yeah, he had the best opportunity to do it. I also don't think he thought anybody else would break it this early.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Davon was pretty. I mean, he's pretty candid.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it didn't seem like he was trying to hold back that info at all.
Yeah, and coincidentally, his partner in crime, his running mate, will camp on Saturday.
But good on Nebraska too for being open and honest with their recruits.
What have we been saying all week?
Transparency.
Listen, don't ask the questions unless you want the answer. Mm-hmm. And that's just how they're going to be.
And sometimes, though, getting that answer is the best thing for you because now you can really focus on the next step.
I just get the sense, the whole value worth thing, and let's save it because Michigan Lance is on. He wants to talk Coach Rule.
Mm-hmm.
There's a value worth thing that we talked about yesterday. You got me going on kind of the in-state and how it should be recruited, and Sam dropped you have to recruit it like Kansas City. Shafe yesterday said Texas. The whole value worth thing, because if you want it to be a two-way street where Nebraska values you as an in-state recruit, I get the sense you better do it right the first time, because if communication is a two-way street, remember that door swings both ways.
And no words get forgotten. So
I think we
act one way.
Yeah,
that's still there, even if you change around your mindset.
I think we better get into that. I'll issue my PSA on how I think this thing is going to go.
I'm for it. Also, value versus worth in that messy deal.
Oh, or how about Roy McElroy, who all of a sudden,
changed his mind.
I hate Liv
quickly.
But this is going to work. This is going to be good for golf.
Bryson DeChambeau needs to stay off social media. Just you are not supposed to be the voice of this. Nobody's perfect. Wrong choice. Wrong choice of words.
Well, we'll see.
I'm pretty confident in that. Stick around. We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. 590 ESPN Radio here in Omaha. We're live on Twitter, live on YouTube. You can catch us via the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, the Hail Varsity Radio YouTube page as well.
It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of places to find us. And if you miss anything on the show, you can go back and listen to the podcast. You can search.
We got a lot of those folks. That's encouraging. Hey, just catching up on the pod. Hey, just catching up on the pod. Hey, just catching up on the pod.
I am pro podcast. Like, that's me.
Yeah, that's you on the drive.
That is me.
I don't know what I'm going to do for 6 hours and 5 minutes tomorrow, but it won't be a podcast, I don't think.
I'm going to send you the podcast that I like to listen to on the way home.
Okay.
And
is it my sense of humor?
And I'm going to see how long you stick around.
Stick around. Coming up, we got the bag man, Brian Edwards.
Yes, we do.
8:45.
We have at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we had to give him a chunky time. See, Mitch is in that camping world with his kids. Hey, my kids got workouts in the morning. Yeah, Daddy Mitch. Yeah. Best wishes going through this stressful time. So we moved him to 9.
Mitch Sherman, that is.
Yeah, Mitch.
He's doing a really, really good job.
Yes, he is doing a really, really good job. And
Bruntz at 9:45.
We need to give Bruntz a bigger window. I could talk to Bruntz for about 6 days.
That's funny because we moved Bruntz from 9.
I know
to shift around the schedule.
I know. But I always think Shane's on the same wavelength as me. Like I typically don't want to back in the guy that may give us the goods. So give him the 30 where we can creep into the 45. But I don't expect Shane to be on the same page as me all the time.
Yes, sir. So
yeah, because normally we can get our lovely guest to stick around for one more seg.
Yeah. Although Sam put the kibosh on it last week. He's
no.
He's like, nah, man. I gave you 8:30 on an odd day. That's it. Okay. All right then, Sam.
Yep.
Whatever.
Good morning.
Sam's getting out of the coffee. He's going more to pre-workout.
He's
now.
like, yeah, 8:43. I'm out. How about us? Do you know what time 7-on-7 started for Shafe yesterday?
10
o'clock. Yeah.
I almost said 10:10.
So my man thought it was at 9. It wasn't until 10. And he saw plenty.
Wait,
yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
He bounced though at 8:48.
He thought it was originally at 9, like everybody else. But apparently Bellevue West and Miller South went at 10.
He's just getting a tan on while he was out there, right?
Yeah. Well, he rolled up his sleeves. Yo, I'm Mr. 24/7.
Mike Schaefer with a little hair coming through his hat.
Hey, so the more that you're around this thing and you see how Nebraska's recruiting, what would you I'm putting you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to look it up, you can. What would you put the current wish list? Like if Nebraska had their top 3 wish list, now that Davon Hall is apparently outro.
Right.
What do you think Nebraska's top 3 wish list is? You don't have to give me the order, just top 3. In-state
For
24s.
That helps. Well, it does.
You don't have to get your Google game.
Well, I was going to say Gatlin.
But isn't he 26?
Is he?
I think so. You talking about the fast track kid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hope he can play.
In-state, we'll go with. Gosh, because I don't think McMorris is going to end up at Nebraska, even though
even if he does or doesn't. Let's just say wish list. Not where you think the kiddo is going. So take that out of it.
Eifram.
Okay.
Benning.
Okay.
And because I like the potential, I'll say Nelson.
Yeah.
Because I like his athletic potential. I think he's raw. But if I ranked him, it would be Benning, Pyfrom, Nelson. And I think that Nelson play at 3 is going to get people to be like, oh, what?
See, I think Kalen has to be in there. Do you know why?
So since he's already there, that's why I didn't factor him in.
They made a concerted effort to go back and get him. So if I'm just picking up the bird crumbs, right? And of course you could easily ask.
Do you think that a little bit of that was, hey, our quarterback room though is dwindling?
Okay.
And so we need extra bodies. And not to say that, hey, Kalen isn't a great football player, because he is. But maybe it was more based on, hey, we see his potential. We also need depth, though. And if we can develop him, then great.
Yeah.
And since he's an in-state guy, too, they may not think he'll run as fast as he'd be okay to stay if he's not climbing the ladder.
See, I definitely... Okay, that's interesting, because I definitely think... Well, here, let's get to Michigan Lance real quick, because I got something with this. And I'm kind of getting the feel based on what happened with Hall yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm gonna get your thoughts. Let's get to Michigan Lance here.
What's up, Lance?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I have no idea what you said.
That's good. That's fantastic. I just asked Drew Down to give me what he feels like Nebraska's top 3 wish list is in state.
Okay. I was actually calling about Rule this week and D Hall. First off, I love the dorm idea. That's a great idea to have everybody together.
Me too.
Team build. That's what Nebraska needs as much.
It's like a retreat.
Building and bonding as they can get to be around each other. Coaches too. I wanted to do that when I was a head coach at Concordia.
Where were you going to take the guys? To Dana?
Yep, exactly. Yep, we were going to take them over there, and it just didn't work out. Somehow, maybe I think with the food part of it or something. But
yeah, that's one of the first things Andrew asked about. He goes, "So how are we going to do this eating thing?
Are they cooking in house? Are they getting groceries, bringing them in? Are they catering? What's happening
logistics matter. How about him picking a spot dead smack in the middle of campus?
I'm sure there's a cafeteria nearby, isn't there?
Well, there is, but they've got to prepare the food in the in the kitchen. So that'll be interesting.
Andrew, didn't you go to like a D2 school, Andrew?
I did.
Yeah, I did too. I went JUCO D2. Guess what? Before school started, we had food. So it can be done.
Hey, Lance, it's not about having the food. It's about like who's
the
cooking
preparation
the food,
for
like
200
when
people.
They're getting the food, because it's not like, hey, school's in session, so the school itself is like getting U.S. food trucks there. And like I'm wondering who's going to Hy-Vee.
Are you serious, man? Listen, I played college football, D2, and
he
junior
gets
college.
so mad. I didn't think an argument was going to spark.
Let me tell you something. If we can find food in Fort Dodge, Iowa on the August 9th, if food trucks can get there.
One of the few athletic departments where the surplus can find money for food.
It's not about the truck getting there. It's about the logistics behind it. I was asking a question of, if they're going to eat,
Andrew,
what are they going to eat? Are they catering?
Andrew,
are they getting groceries? Who's cooking?
Andrew, they make too much money for those. Those are poor people problems. What are you talking about, man? Like, where's Nebraska football going to find their next meal? Are you serious?
Man.
Come on, man. Come on, come on, man. It's too much money to be made.
Andrew, those are poor people problems.
A simple question.
Just logistics.
I just kind of wanted to know the agenda.
Weird.
Listen, man. No, we ain't doing that. Anyway, I like D Hall. All right. Hey, I like the dorm things Rule did, and I like being up front with D Hall. Hey, man, listen, you're just not our guy. Best wishes, good on D Hall, accepting it and saying, hey, okay, no problem. Like DB says, and I say, hey, man, just be truthful. Tell me everything, transparency up front, instead of dragging this thing out until December or January and pulling a plug on a guy. And that happens in college football all across this country. That's why I don't like when people say these kids need to be loyal and these coaches sit up here and pull the wool over their eyes late in the game. So good on Rule. Hey, just because you may not like it, at least you know what's going on and how to move forward. And that's so right now, in the moment, since Rule is taking over, I like what he's done. And it's still, outcome on the field has to be done. But what he's done so far in the offseason is really good. Stop worrying about food when you're rich. Come on, man.
Hey, very mature second part of that response, very immature beginning. Lance, we appreciate you, man.
Oh, shoot.
Man, who would have thought he'd go all in on the food? I ask questions.
Man, listen, I can't explain it, man. I don't know. I'm here for it. I'm going to tell you about the
I think this stemmed from something deeper. I need to know, like, what food mishap he had at Concordia.
We're going to get into the rules of engagement.
Back in a moment.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers.
We're just fighting.
Meal prep is not an issue or a question to be brought up out here talking like NU football's on food stamps or something. Thanks, Lance. Keep it going. Keep it going. I think he missed the whole thing. I think he missed the whole
You just wanted to know about, like, the logistics of food prep.
Well, and I don't know what's in the Selleck. I asked if there was a cafeteria in there.
Yeah.
And you said yes, right?
Yes.
And so that makes sense why they chose the Selleck.
But that is and I know what Nebraska would say, right? Nebraska would say that's no different than us having groceries with the training at the training table, right? We prepare the food there. We have our kitchens. We have the big storage spaces for the refrigerators. We're just moving it to a different location.
There's my answer.
That's probably what they would say, but I'm telling you, like the excess in which you have to be able. So you know where the real stress would be? How much do we need? Because see, at the training table, you can always go back and make more because it's in excess. So if you're going off-site, just do a good job calculating. Okay, hey, typically when we feed 180 people, or how I'd say about 180. When we feed 180 people, no, let's say 200 to be safe. When we feed 200 people, this is about the amount of food we take. So then you have to buy it and have it over there. I guess if there's excess, you could move it back, but you maybe would overshop in the short term.
Yes, indeed.
But it's just funny, man. Like
it wasn't if they could afford the food.
Yeah.
It was how the food gets there. Gets in there.
Severe said, sometimes I wish I had less food in the house. Fat people problems. I gotta show you what this dude had on both his gas savings for both grocery stores. It's ridiculous. This dude has to go to the grocery store every single day.
It's ridiculous.
Like how much off on the gallon?
Yeah, so I'll give you. I'm not gonna put his business out there fully. Yesterday when he got gas, the at the pump it started with a 1.
So he had like $1.50 off.
You know.
Well, I know that if you spend
and it's hard. It's harder now.
$100 at Family Fare, you get 50 cents off at QT. I'm not saying that that's where he went.
Hey, by the way, the 9th and 10th, I sent you. I don't know if I put you on there. I put him on there. The ones that Boyce gave me, the sales at Fairway for the 9th and 10th, they got some more specials. You get bacon for $5 a pound, or $4 a pound. And I don't know how you feel about bacon. By the way,
gotta have that bacon.
By the way, Johnny the Pigs, bacon.
Unbelievable.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
I would have eaten that raw.
It didn't. Hey,
That's
so
how good it smells.
My mom would probably call in 888-638-4876. You know, I used to sneak raw bacon. I ate it as a kid. That's why I have 0 sense as an adult. I think like the worms ate away at my brain. But I mean, other people eat cookie dough. I can't eat raw bacon. I said other people. You know what I wanted to say, right?
Yeah,
I can eat raw bacon if I want to. You ate cookie dough. You're fine.
But mine had no eggs, though.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever.
I did eat raw cookie dough with eggs.
Devil's in the details. So, you know, we were talking about the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
RHULES, and we're talking about in-state, out-of-state. So this whole value versus worth thing, because I sat on this all day yesterday after we got through this, because there seems to have been a disconnect the last 20, 25 years with in-state versus out of state versus, you know, is it a miss or is it just not fit the program? Like we've had these conversations for years. Oh, other guys going to play other places and this, that, and the other. And I said, not everybody's a miss, right? So
not the mist, a miss.
Yeah, with 2 S's, not like Cube Gorillas in the Mist. Or who was the Fawcett lady who was studying the apes and she ended up dying up there? I think Sigourney Weaver played her.
First name Jane.
Jane Fawcett?
I think it's Jane. Something, yeah.
Who studied the apes in the... Sigourney Weaver played the person in the movie.
Yeah, from the 80s, yeah.
And I think it actually was called Gorillas in the Mist. Anyway, man, my brain... I know.
All over.
Patience.
It's all over.
Listen, it's a goddamn spark.
Oh,
if this thing...
D-I-A-N Fossey.
Diane?
If that's... I've had
D-I-A-N-E?
Nope, D-I-A-N.
Deanne? Deanne.
He just is not interested in being wrong reading, so he dances around it. If this thing would not chunk up and I wouldn't get it 80 milligrams at a time per consumption, I wouldn't lose my mind. So it's like shaking a cocktail.
After every time you take a drink, you're like,
yeah, it's freaking gritty. Well, I'm going to go get my shaving kit and freaking get some floss. But I think locally, a lot of national love, right? A lot of guys with double-digit Power 5 offers. I think 5 or 6. 5 for sure. right? Double-digit Power 5 offers.
And they're still coming with in-state guys.
Right, and I've even had to I have this talk once every 2 weeks in my house. Every 2 weeks. But I have to be a father too. So I simply leave it at, hey, listen, okay, you can do this your way, and you can bet on yourself, or you can play the game and do X, Y, and Z. And so we lay it out. Hey, this school said this. You can do this on social. We talk about it once every 2 weeks. Okay, he doesn't enjoy talking about it, but I feel like I have to make him a little uncomfortable and share this and talk about it, right? And I imagine other people are getting guidance in their households in terms of how to handle, because it's easy to fall in love with yourself based on these last 2 cycles, right? 2025 is going to have to negotiate it too. Hey, 7-on-7, and I'm wearing my sunglasses, and I'm doing well at Lindenwood, and I'm getting all this attention and all that. Okay, that's totally fine. Enjoy the moment, embrace the recruiting process. But I think I have an idea of how Nebraska is going to handle this. If it's a two-way street, and you're sitting up in your seat,
I'm ready.
If this is a two-way street and they're extending you hey, all things being equal, we'll take the in-state guy, but you have to give us something back in return because we are trying to build a program. I want to respect you.
Mm-hmm.
In return, you got to respect us too. So I would be very conscious. This is just me, and somebody from Nebraska probably call or text and be like, dude, you just killed us. I think this staff strikes me as the type of staff that if you're an in-state guy and they've recruited you to the fullest and you don't pick them and you go someplace else, that's fine. They will cheer their brains out for you. Just don't come back. It doesn't sound like, they don't seem like the type of staff that would be like, hey man, this is my new Steve Perry Journey version of Open Arms. Come on back.
That seems
like,
harsh.
I don't get, but so are they not doing their due diligence?
No, they are.
Okay.
In full effect.
Right? Like,
but they expect
now if they were half-assing it,
the player,
yeah,
to do it too.
Yeah, right? Like if they were half-assing it and like, oh man, come if you want. Come as you are. Did you sing that song in church? Come as you are?
So no.
In the name of Jesus. Anyway. I'm like you could get it from me singing.
You sang Nirvana and Come As You Are in church?
Huh?
Wait, Nirvana. Come. Oh, I know that song.
Yeah, Come As You Are.
Yeah.
Sing it, Shane.
No.
Don't you kind of get that sense?
No, but here's where I think about where it could be a little bit different. So say you make a decision. Are you saying, okay, maybe I'll ask this question.
I don't know what I'm saying. I just get the sense, right?
It's
my radar is definitely up.
Like if you had, we'll just say Carter Nelson, for example.
Okay.
He chooses Georgia.
Okay.
Doesn't work out at Georgia.
Don't come back to Nebraska.
So, okay, that's my question then. Why is it, and I don't know how the recruiting process went ahead of time.
Do you know where I'm getting this from?
I do. I'm going to ask this because I don't know the answer.
Okay.
With Trout.
I hate when you ask me these things.
With Trout.
Isaac?
How was the recruiting process with Creighton?
Good question. Very complicated. So I think there was some miscommunication on both. I think Creighton at the tail end thought they had Isaac. I think they thought they had Isaac. Isaac kind of at the last minute kind of went full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, he did a 180 because he didn't come back. I think, can I say this? I think Isaac thought on his end the relationship was a lot more icy than it really was. I think on Coach Mack and the staff's end, they kind of understood how it played out, even though they thought they had him, and he chose Virginia. Coming back, I think there was some trepidation on Isaac's part because he didn't know if Creighton would want him.
Right. Okay.
Creighton was cool from the jump. We're like, oh, yeah, we'll figure out a way to make this work. Come on down. So it depends on the school. And I also think basketball is different than football because typically once a kid commits somewhere, most schools don't continue to recruit you.
Already?
Football seems to keep going. There's something Rule said that stuck in my craw about 2 months ago about going first in loyalty, where there's something about the kid that says yes to us before we've even proven anything yet that endears himself to my heart. I could actually see that working the other way too. If you don't, and I don't think that's petty. I think, listen, you have to be exceptional for us to take you back the second time.
Okay, I have a football example of the same thing when we come back.
I'm here for it. It's your show.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers. We are deep in the conversation of essentially if you leave, don't come back.
Now, this is on the heels of the brevity in which they. Let me say this. This is on the heels of the seemingly the brevity of the ending of Hall's recruitment. Like, I think it's been a certain way for a while, where it's just coming to light the last couple of days because of a conversation that Hall had with Nebraska. Now, full disclosure, man, let's don't get it twisted. Let's not act like Davon Hall is not a stud, because he is.
Yes, he is.
Fantastic player. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know all the ins and outs of what happened, because I don't. I just know that for a player who said it to Mike Sauter yesterday, that, yep, dot and data, this is done, for him to say it out loud to somebody that was actually doing the interview, that had the information, everybody seems to be okay with it. Like, they put it out there on the table. You know what I mean? So it just got me thinking yesterday, especially after our meeting, which is when Mike and I were talking about it, when he wasn't fighting with Millard South's coaching staff. You know the funny thing about that, sidebar? Schaefer sent me a text at like 10:30, and he's like, whoa, I think I've seen Sauter the most upset I've ever seen him.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And then to get Sauter's version of the story, it ate him up.
Well, and I said it reminded me of the Gretna story that he shared on air.
Oh, yeah.
When fans got after him
about
for
not
favoring one end over the other. And Sauter's like, do you know me?
And full disclosure, I think some barbs were exchanged with Millard South. And I think I'm not vouching for him, but I like those guys, especially Nolan, right? Because I've known him a long time, and I know some people don't get him. It's fine. Like, that doesn't. I'm not that insecure. I like him, right? Like, if I'm gonna go into battle, I kind of want that guy with me, because he's gonna try to figure out a way to come out on top. You may not always like how he does it, but whatever. Like, I like him, and I think he was joking with Sauter about. It's the age-old thing. Shoot, my daughter was mad at Sauter when she was a freshman over saying things about one team versus not another. I mean, it's just how young people are, right? Like, oh, you like those guys more than me. Like, your own kids will do that one day too. You're gonna be like, man, come on, little Timmy. I like Sarah's much. I did just give you Timmy and Sarah. You may go with different names.
Yeah. Who's to say I'm not going to do something more unique, DB?
Yeah. Okay. Tish, Hennessy, I love you both the same. I can see you saying that, Andrew. But anyway, as your parents like roll over in the middle of the night, oh my God, I can't believe it just had to be Mr. Diversity.
You know how I picked my college, right? Somebody said I wasn't going to name my kids this name, right? I wasn't going to go to this school.
Hennessy,
we
come
passed
on down.
over.
Wow.
Andrew, why do you name your kid Hennessy? Well, every time I'm at the casino, I say anything is possible before I decide to put $100 into the slot machine, and it works.
Mom, I'm taking Cavassier to batting practice. Anyway. Let me stop.
Cavassi who?
Hey. So, like, I forgot what I was saying. So I think, like, with like the recruiting thing, it's like, do you feel like it should be that kind of give and take with the rules of engagement? Because if all things being equal, I give you the nod because you're an in-state guy. Like, I would expect some common courtesy. I told you the joke, right? On the signing day, you know, I was joking with Coach Rule. We were coming back from Kansas City. Westside was hooping, and I was with our AD and whatever. And he was joking, but I got it. Rule said, hey, you should have Caleb call on FaceTime during signing day and have him be the first 24 commit. Historically, the first guys in our class that commit are the guys that get drafted. Just saying, with the laughing emoji. I was like, he's probably kind of serious, but he is kind of joking. But I did just appreciate the deal, right?
And you're like, that's not Caleb's MO.
But okay, so that's in my Rolodex, right? It's 8:30 driving back from KC. That's in my Rolodex. Then I listen to him talk. Then I hear him talk about loyalty. Then I hear him talk about family. Like, he's going to give you how about what he said about giving guys second chances until you show that you appear to be ungrateful? Like, as long as you're appreciative of having opportunities, I'm here for it. Like, I want to extend a hand and help you up. Now, the minute you take me for granted and you're not appreciative, you got to go. You got to go. Like that. I am not here for that. So all these things that are building me up to this loyalty thing, like, hey, if I'm doing this for you and you're taking a leap of faith and you believe in me, I am here. Because look how he hired his staff. It was about trust, right? Because we've gone through this together. He left Coach Foley back on the East Coast when he went to Carolina. Like, that could have been awkward, but then he came back to get him to come to Nebraska, right? So I got all these things working in my brain, right? Hey, man, T. White and Coach Coop want to get together with Lob, this, that, and the other. I'm like, all right, am I overthinking this? Am I not overthinking this? This is about investment. It is totally.
They're doing their part.
It is
investing in the player they want.
Right. So, but it would be totally different if this makes any sense. And I'm speculating. It would be totally different if it was a guy like Teddy Rizak. Why could Teddy Rizak come back to Nebraska? I'm saying for whatever the reason, right? If Teddy Rizak wanted to come back to Nebraska after 2 years at Notre Dame or whatever, Nebraska would probably be like, yep, we'll entertain that. Why? Because I don't think Nebraska felt like they gave it the old college try. So he gets a little grace. But if they've tried and they've rolled out the red carpet and you rolled it back, I just
okay. So I'm kind of vibing with the point you're making now.
I don't see that being a thing.
Right. So
I think they'd rather cut you off ahead of time and get that out of the way than waste anybody's time.
Right. So the reason I'm vibing now is when I was going through, I know, leave it to me to be a fraternity brother.
Shocker.
But when I was going through Rush Week, there were only 2 out of the 3 on campus that recruited me to go into their fraternity. So I chose one, but a lot of my buddies chose the one that didn't recruit me. And what had happened was there was a mix-up. Somebody was supposed to reach out, never did. And then they were all like, oh, they thought I stiffed you because I just chose not to show up at the Rush event I was invited to, and it just became this whole thing. So then there was grace period when I chose not to sign with one fraternity and go back to the one that I ultimately wanted to be in. So I get that aspect because the people there felt like they did something wrong. Knew they did something wrong. They messed up. And so they would open up their arms and bring me in, kind of like the Rizak situation. But the only other thing I think about is if I'm a talented player and I just got homesick, like I went somewhere else and I got homesick and I passed over Nebraska, I would guess that Coach Rule is more forgiving than he is hard-nosed in that light.
I'm here for that. I'm probably inclined to agree with that, but it better be good.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, if you say the right thing,
it better be good.
And you own it yourself to say, look, I know I passed over you. I thought this was best for me at the time. Turns out it wasn't. I need to be closer to home. I want to be. And look, if I can play football, that's great. I want to play for you. But if you guys won't take me, I can live with that too. And if you really approach it with a way like that versus hey, coach, I'm going to come back to Nebraska. Where's my roster spot? Like, what's open for me? Even if I'm the best player, coach would, knowing his personality,
plus
he'd be the guy that's like, yeah, we'll see.
You got to imagine that they're having conversations with guys that they're recruiting, right? Nelson and Pyfrom and who know, I full disclosure, I do not ask about what was said, even in my own house, because I don't really want to know. I always give you the opportunity to say, hey, do you want to know this or do you not want to know this? And you'll say yay or nay. But because you're nosy, you'll always say yes, typically when I want to tell you something.
Hey, what's on your mind?
So in my own household, I don't do that.
I am the type of guy that wants to walk through people's houses.
Like I don't ask him, hey, what such and such say? Not if it's Nebraska. If it's another school, hey, what did Elko say or something like that, right? Like, because I don't want that. I don't want this tainted. That over there I can deal with. This is too close to home. I know it sounds weird, but try being a parent in your alma maters, and it's just a complicated dynamic, right? So, I don't want to know those conversations. So what do? I ask other players, right? Because there's a lot of guys in this 24 and 25 class that I'm good friends with. I've either coached or I know their family. So I go through them. Hey, how do you feel about this? When they said this, how would you compare it to? Like, I do it all the time, right? I coach one of the guys. I mean, I could ask Christian Jones anything I want to.
And you could get the information that you want.
Right? I can ask Rezak anything I want to. I can ask Tyson Terry anything I want to. Like, there are just some guys I have very, very easy access to. But there's also other good associates that I know. Like, if I want to talk to Mike Ingerson, I can talk to him. Hey, with this recruitment with Eric, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I can pick and choose like what information I want to be privy to, what information I don't. I'm just saying in this recruiting cycle with what's happening in the next 2-3 years versus how hard they camp and pay attention to detail at these satellite camps and when they're in other places, I just think they want everybody operating in the know. So if they're going to be super forthright and super authentic, I think the part of the rules, the RHULES rules of engagement, is the respect has to be a two-way street. I firmly believe that.
And I can get behind that.
Right? It's like,
it makes sense because that's just how he likes to operate. It's the culture that he's building.
We just had a school, and I know one of the guys is, they told him, listen, he's top 2 on the board. He's with this guy right here from this state. But this guy has been on campus 3 times. We have yet to see your son. As sure as I'm sitting here, I asked my head coach. My head coach is sitting right here next to me. Do I want to bristle up at that? Do I want to talk about basketball and some other things? No, because he's not here for the excuses. He's just simply giving me the facts.
Right.
I've seen this guy from this state, which is 600 miles away. He's been on our campus 3 times. You got to let our coach know, because historically we have not had good success recruiting legacy kids. I said, stop the conversation. We're not having this legacy thing. Stop using that word around me. He doesn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. If you want him, recruit him. If you don't. Take me out of the equation. There was this awkward pause. Coach Samanji's putting his head down like, oh, my God, I know I hired this loose cannon for a reason. He just tells it like it is. You got to take the good with the bad, Coach. Don't mind this dude. That's probably what he's thinking. He doesn't say a word.
Meanwhile, he throws away the key.
Well, they came back in 3 days and wanted to work out. So, but I just think that's the kind of, if that school's having that conversation, you don't think Nebraska is? Like, how relational are those guys? Like, they're trying to get in there, right? You think it's all coincidence that 1890 is having an event in Texas when they're camping? It's not coincidence. It is
everything is on the calendar.
It is by design, right? What did we say 3 weeks ago? Nebraska was trying to work out. Hey, you got collectives, you have 1890. I really think they're trying to figure out a way to play nicely. You can do this with this group. You can do this with this group. They don't have to coexist. Now, 1890 couldn't help themselves on the tweet. They said, we continue to be like they just kind of, right. Which is fine. I'm not, but at the end of the day, when you want to be a well-oiled machine, everybody's got to be in it together with common vision. And that includes the staff talking to these kids. So it can be cool to be being recruited. But I said this 3 months ago. I said it on Twitter. Fall in love with the kids that enjoy playing more than they enjoy being recruited. Because for these first couple of years at Nebraska, you cannot hang your hat on folks that are in love with the process. You're just not going to win that way. Because I don't know if anybody's that gifted where you make those compensations. Now, there are about 4 or 5 Sunday talents, but there are fewer talent versus mental makeup to be a Sunday guy. There's if I'm looking at both, will you eventually have the physical attributes and the wherewithal to be a Sunday guy versus having one or the other? Some guys will hang in there all day long. I mean, that'd be a Danny Woodhead or a Rex Burkhead. And that's not to say that those guys aren't talented.
Is that because of the latter?
Because they're extremely talented. You don't get to the league and not be talented, right? But the Easton Stick's probably a better example. He has the temperament to handle Sundays. Gifted enough. That was never a question to me. He has the because of the way he has the temperament to handle Sundays. Some of these guys that are so busy about what's my NIL package, what kind of pictures can I take, who can I get next to, what can I get for me?
Those are the wrong details to focus on.
I'm telling you, it doesn't last because those vices or those foibles, it's probably a better word, those get accentuated as you get squeezed. And if you lack substance and you're all about style, it doesn't take very long to reveal itself. So when you're building a culture like Nebraska is, that has to be predicated on substance first. You can't make that mistake. I heard Coach Frost tell me this. He said it out loud. Hey, listen, DB, I made some mistakes early on in the recruiting cycle because I wanted to win so bad. We recruited some guys that I probably ultimately knew weren't going to be a good fit, but we rolled the dice on talent. Do you think he's alone?
No.
Absolutely not.
There are plenty of coaches out there that roll the dice on talent and hope.
It's just a lot of those guys
can be made
accrue enough talent where they can make those mistakes and they don't skip a beat. Not some programs aren't afforded that luxury. The folks that play the K-States, the Iowas, the Wisconsins, I'm just trying to stay regional. Even Michigan State to a degree. The due diligence they do about character and fit versus jumping the gun and compromising talent is like they're very, very, very slow to go. That's why Iowa offering Burt, I was like, ooh, that's pretty telling, right? Because that's
something.
Well, that's the same school that didn't offer Tyson Terry until a month ago, right? So, like, you can just tell schools that it has to be a certain way, which is why I said from the jump, even though I probably would kick Caleb out tomorrow and take Anthony and Teddy Rizak in my house as kids, I wasn't mad at Nebraska for how that recruiting process shook out because they simply didn't know enough. And I know what was said after. You know what I mean?
And you gave them grace for being new.
And they ate it.
Right.
They totally owned it. So,
but if this happened 2-3 years down the road,
then
there's a problem.
All bets are off.
Yeah, and you're not reacting the same way, whether they own it or not.
That's a problem.
Because you didn't do the work to find that out.
Yeah.
Now you're setting yourself up to not make the same mistake.
Yeah. And like I said, it's like when you say, this is not good. So this local recruiting cycle with 24s and 25s and 26s, there's a couple of really good quarterbacks that'll be in 27s. And I mean, wait till you see Steve Warren's kid. Like, we're just getting started in terms of other schools, national exposure. I'm just saying, if you want Nebraska to be really, really successful, not just on the transparency of in-state recruiting, pay attention to see if the style and the substance fits with what the coaching staff wants. It's not always going to be in the frill and the fluff. Some guys you have to recruit just for the optics because it looks okay, but don't get it twisted. I don't think this staff is losing an ounce of sleep over, I'm going to say this. I don't think they're losing an ounce of sleep over not getting anyone in these next 2 recruiting cycles if they've maximized their effort. They just won't. They're not going to bat an eye. I don't care if it's
because they always move forward. They're always moving forward.
It's the only way they know how. I don't care if it's my kid. I don't care if it's Kalen. I don't care if it's Terry. I don't care if it's Christian Jones. I don't care. They're not staying up at night. It's just not who they are. And you better understand that if you're being recruited. It's a very fine line to walk. You want to be wanted and you want to be treated the way that you want to be treated, but you better understand value versus worth. That's why we have those conversations once every 2 weeks. You better understand value versus worth. Yes. And if you want the benefits of being in state, there's a certain amount of responsibility and maturity that comes with that.
Yeah. How do they see you? Do they see you as a diamond before it is cut to precision, or do they see you as the precision?
I just don't see these guys getting token offers in state. It's a tough staff.
You got to earn it. You've got to earn it.
Like they just have their procedure. And
they're finding their rhythm.
Right.
And Ken on YouTube, fitting exactly what we're talking about here, he asked, does the fact that they are rebuilding make the give-take relationship even more important?
Yes.
Hey, get on the train.
Yes.
We're moving fast
Yes.
and not looking back.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's listen to Coach Rule.
It's the momentum thing I talked about with DC yesterday.
And you're probably privy to more than most. But so how many times has he intimated or flat out said there's something about people that commit to us before we're even really good at what we do that endears itself in my heart?
I mean,
he's probably said it at 10 times. Oh, it matters. It definitely matters. No, make no mistake about it.
He's all about loyal and staying loyal, because what does he want to do while he's here? He wants to develop you. He wants you here for 4 years. He says it a lot.
Look what he did with the scholarships available versus the portal. He kept
He kept a lot of
those in-house.
And he answered a lot of high school parents' question by doing it.
Yes, he did.
We'll do the Sports Six-Pack next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
You know, I was talking to somebody. Was it another beer lover of mine? Maybe it was at softball.
Another beer lover of mine.
On Tuesday, he's like, we were talking about Zipline and how we may spend our time when we go down to the College World Series at Zipline. And he's like, do you know which beer I really like there? The Copper Alt. And I'm like, that was one of DB and I's favorites when we first had our trial pack.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 4 different beers, and Copper Alt and dear old Nebraska Brew could have been interchangeable for one. Like, we were like, I could give it to dear old Nebraska Brew one day, but Copper Alt, like, I could give that one on another day.
That was the one I was like, oh, man, I said Oklahoma Tyler will love this.
And I'm sure he did.
Well, but then they had the Kolsch, too. But that's because that's really
that was his favorite.
That's his jam.
But, yeah, he's like, I like the Copper Alt. And I'm like, man, I appreciate you checking out Zipline because you listen to our show. And I know they appreciate that, too. And I know there's other people out there that enjoy Zipline beer just like us that could really use a Copper Alt at some point in time this week.
Yes, sir. Oh, well, I think what people got to understand is we wouldn't say it if we didn't believe it.
Well, and I'm sure Florida State, after yesterday's fiasco with Jordy Ball, it's hard to hit the ball against her. They probably need 27 Copper Alts right now.
Yeah, that thing started late, and I was here for it. So it was 0-0, top of fourth, and Short makes a good play for Oklahoma. 0-0. I mean, it's hotly contested, right? Middle of the game. She gave a little dance, a little shuck of jive, a smelling of the finger, a waving of the hands, and a 2 down. And I was like, how is this doable in competitive sports and nobody bats an eye? Do you know how? It's the culture. Mm-hmm. Just embrace it. Mm-hmm. Don't try to figure it out. Don't ask why people act the way that they do
it in softball. Now, to give Lance credit after his phone call last week about, people smiling in the dugout, because I was trying to pay attention to it in this game, and I noticed that in the 7th inning, I saw some Florida State players smiling, and I'm like,
it's such a culture thing.
I'm like, ooh, I know what you're saying now.
But just imagine. So what I asked him is, just imagine if you act like that, and then all of a sudden you stop.
Oh, yeah, and then
you probably look like you're not part of the team.
Or like the other team's in your head.
It's just a way of life. It's just a way.
And you're letting them get to you.
It's a way of softball life.
Shane, let's do it.
Question number 1.
Now, pre-reading these questions, I don't think we're going to get through all of them because they're pretty good. That said, what would you negotiate to give back a player his first home run ball?
And how about your boy De La Cruz yesterday?
Yeah, well, I told you. I said that thing was 112 mile an hour first at bat, and they beat him again yesterday.
And then you saw him knock one 458 feet to the top row of those seats.
Remember when we asked Marty Cordero? I was like, Marty, I said, do you see it in LA when they were here a month ago? He's like, oh yeah. Shoot, I think he's only hitting like 240 in AAA.
The boy can rake.
Dude, doesn't get cheated.
So you catch that home run ball, DB. What do you ask for in return?
I don't know. A win.
By the Dodgers?
Yeah. Don't lose 8-6. Is that too much to ask? I don't know. I don't know what I ask. Just pay for my summer basketball travel.
So what is that?
I don't know. 30.
I guess I don't really want to get
like total.
Yeah.
Oh,
you don't have to share it.
Just that.
Okay.
It's not. It's your bad expenditure times 6.
So my guy that caught the ball, he got a photo, signed ball, signed bat, I believe, and he got his entire crew of boys down there in the locker room to meet him.
We the boys.
I thought that was a pretty cool win. If it were me, I would want an autograph, signed ball. I think
I'm not an autograph guy,
but see, I collect them.
I know. That's your baby.
Autograph baseballs are for me.
That's the value worth versus. That's the value worth discussion.
I think I'd like an autographed jersey too.
Wouldn't be worth a ton to me, but you value it quite a bit.
And then I would, you know what? I don't know what they do at Reds games, but at Cardinal games, they have green seats. There's probably like diamond box seats or something. Like I would want a game where I got to sit in the first row, all inclusive with my buddies, with my family, and take in the game. I think that's what I'd ask for.
All right.
I know some people would be like, oh, and season tickets for life. You don't get that for a dude's first home run ball. I hate to break it to you. You just don't.
I think I would want to hang out in the dugout for a game, but just don't put me to work as a bat boy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you'd probably be like the guy that, gets the laundry thrown on him or
question number 2.
Picking up the wood at the plate.
Okay, so question number 2. James in Omaha, I saw Andrew's TikTok on NCAA 2024 football yesterday.
For checking it out.
And it had me wondering, who would you put on the cover of that game if you essentially got a create your own opportunity?
In college?
Put Matt Rule on the cover.
In college?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm weird. This makes zero sense. I'm putting Reggie Bush on the cover. Give him back.
Like a throwback game?
Give him back his Heisman.
Holding the Heisman Trophy?
And hype up the fact that the nostalgia is back.
If you could create your own cover, what would be really cool is just a wide photo of Memorial Stadium packed. Like game on the field.
You want it to be local?
Players.
Yeah.
Local?
Okay.
Yeah, like have a local cover. That would be really cool to have you just see the sea of red. And I don't know, maybe if it's Nebraska, Iowa playing on the field, but it's
wasn't Reggie Bush on the cover?
I think so.
Yeah, I think he was too.
But you could do a throwback game. They do that with like Madden and Barry Sanders all the time.
How about Josh Allen?
That was a cool looking cover.
So was his tweet. Weirdo. Anyway, when the conference championship.
What if it was West Side at Memorial Stadium on the cover?
Nah, we'd like to be back at Memorial Stadium. No cover though. We got enough problems.
Question number 3.
Where will CP3 end up? What's the best destination spot that you could use a piece like him to make a title run, since he's won a lot of them?
I got a question.
I like the back end. Say the back end one more time.
Do you know where I'd go if I was Chris Paul? Because you only play, 48 games anyway, and you want to be ready for playoffs. Let him go to Milwaukee and play with Drew Holiday. Give Drew Holiday some downtime. You play with guys that you have to get the ball to. You're a distributor. It's not necessarily about tempo. Go to Milwaukee.
I think he'd succeed with the 76ers.
Okay. They need some maturity.
And that's why I'm leaning that way. It's not like they need somebody to handle the basketball, because they have guys that can do that, but you don't have an elite distributor like Chris Paul.
Yeah.
So you bring him to the team. He can kind of calm down the dynamic, right? And you're not like replacing. If I put him on Boston, for example, say they lost Jaylen Brown and you replace him with Chris Paul, like maybe, but if you keep Jaylen Brown there, you have him and Tatum competing to just hold the basketball, that Chris Paul kind of comes irrelevant on that team. On the 76ers, I could see it. Now, people keep tossing around the Lakers, as we see on ESPN this morning. Could the Lakers use them?
I don't know. What are you going to do with Kyrie? Pass?
Are you passing?
Yes. Yes. Like on the left lane going about 79. Pass.
Oh, 79. We brought it back.
Man, listen. Move.
Question number 4.
How are we only on 4?
It happens.
Are Carroll and Yoshida untouchable at this point for Roy? If not, who are 2 guys you think can catch them?
For Roy.
What?
It says.
For Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
God, I love you, Shay.
It says Roy. I'm just reading as is.
That is so awesome.
For Roy.
I'm like, Oswald? Patrick? What are we talking about? Do you remember Roy Oswald?
Yeah. Good pitcher for the Astros.
Oh, my gosh, Shane, I love you.
Are Carroll and
Carroll was my pick, so I say yes.
Untouchable for Roy.
Yes. No, I won't say untouchable, but they're going to win it.
I'd say Carroll is more untouchable than
Let's go,
Yoshida.
DB. Let's go, DB.
In the AL.
I picked Oboe in Baltimore, so.
So if you had a change, like if you said, it's not going to be Carroll, who's it going to be in the NL? Is it going to be De La Cruz?
Yeah. Because he'll get enough. Wait.
I think he'll get enough games.
I think he's got to get enough games in, but I mean, he's off.
My Walker pick is kind of out the window.
Yeah,
the Cardinals destroyed that.
Although he's back,
and he did hit a bomb.
You love some Jordan Walker.
I do. I'm such a homer.
Little Sally Walker walking down the street.
In the AL,
how many questions we have left, Shane? 2.
I think 2. We'll save them for 9:30.
God, we suck.
We've got to talk to Brian Edwards and Mitch Sherman before we can finish our six pack. We're just slow drinkers. That's all it is.
Babysit your copper alt.
BE next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Just like I'm sick of all of my losses in sports betting, Brian Edwards.
I thought that was your buddy. I thought that was your buddy. You said he's taking a bath too.
Oh, he was.
Is he back?
He's climbing.
Well, he needs more BE in his life.
Well,
don't we all?
I'm telling you, BE dealing with some sinus issues.
What's
he's
wrong?
Feeling like he's got a pretty bad.
You got allergies, man. We got high pollen count going on. What's going on over there, B?
Feeling sick. I'm sick of losing.
I feel 100%. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. If the voice is a little hoarse, I just wanted to let you know if I'm short-winded a little bit today. I'm just
yelling at your television that Kyle Lowry is like the greatest Jekyll and Hyde of all time.
I had Denver last night, so I wasn't.
He's like, I don't care about Lowry, man.
I don't care about Kyle.
Well, the line let you know, right? Like the Denver was favored on the road in which they had lost a split. Like, I mean, if nothing else, and you liked it a little juicy, you probably grabbed some money line or something. I think that was minus 160, but it was pretty much telling you Denver was going to win that game.
Well, right when I saw Malone's post game late Sunday night.
About the energy and effort?
Yeah. I was like, I love what he's saying right now. And he was exactly right. And I think that's going to motivate his team. And I grabbed 2, before it moved to 2.5. And then obviously yesterday, it was on the move all day. But I was locked in at 2 and even got a little minus 135 money line. That was Sunday night. And I didn't mess with the total. I did a little bit of Joker's points prop over, which I've had the last couple games. And I'm not seeing that on my account. It's probably up at like FanDuel or whatever. I'm assuming it's going to be 28.5, maybe juiced, or maybe they moved to 29.5. And I'm going to probably be on that again, as long as it's, not up to 30.5. Any 29.5 or less, I'm going to be on Joker's prop. But I'm kind of leaning the Heat here on Friday.
Me too.
But I haven't done it yet, and I'm going to be kind of tempted to maybe just watch a little bit and see if I can get them in game at a little better underdog number. But you might miss the boat if they get off to, a good start, and then you missed the boat. So I'm thinking right now I'll probably do small bet on Miami +3, assuming the line's going to stay put. I don't think Hero will affect the line even if he comes back. And what do you guys think? What kind of playing time do you think he will get if he comes back?
It'll be limited.
I think he's 16 plus.
Right.
I'd still call that limited.
I don't see. In the pro sports, I don't think you sprinkle guys in. I think they train to get ready to play as though they're playing.
Right.
I think he's 16 plus minutes.
Well, I guess what I was kind of thinking in my mind is, I know Gabe Vincent did not play well last night, but he has been playing great. Are you? And Strus didn't play well again last night. Are you getting into Vincent's minutes? And that's what I'm thinking about. Not how much can Hero go. How much do you want to disturb your rotation? Now, granted, they didn't play well last night, and so if they don't get off to a good start Friday, then hell with it. Get Hero in. Let's see what he can do.
So the weird thing is, Andrew and I had this conversation yesterday with one of our guys that covers the Creighton beat, and we were talking about at what point do we stop saying role players for Miami and we just talk about players. So I think Spoelstra's the type of guy that would look at Vincent, Hero, Strus. They're interchangeable, right? And I think he just plays the hot hand, right? I just think it gives him one more option to see who can shoot the basketball. Because, heck, even Duncan Robinson only played 14 minutes last night.
He's playing good right now. I don't know why. I think he needs to be getting more minutes, and I don't know why Cody Zeller's even in the NBA, much less out there. I know he didn't play much, but come on,
He pulled a Rogers Jr. in Indianapolis with the Colts. He bet on Jokic triple double.
He parlayed it with Jamal.
Winner.
Hey, speaking of the whole Lowry Jamal thing, did you guys see in the fourth quarter? This has nothing to pertain to betting, but did you see like Jamal coming from behind Lowry after he put a shot up, and then he was going to help him up, and then the ball came his way, and then he just let go of Lowry's hand and grabbed the ball and kept moving? I thought that was the funniest thing.
Two guys that don't.
I like to see. I just laugh at pettiness, and like that to me was super petty.
Andrew's here for petty.
Yes. So I hope the Heat win Friday, because then, A, we get more games, and B, things get really, really, really interesting. So I hope that happens. And I right now I'm kind of thinking Miami does bounce back.
Let me ask you something about UFC 289. Listen, Oliveira's dangerous. What was your level of surprise, if any, to see that Dariush was favored in this one, let alone 1.5, but
right,
minus 150?
Not that much,
You're
because
just
well, I'm not a big Dariush guy. Like he's on fire, obviously, but he hasn't really faced any top 5 guys. I mean, Gamrot's a top 10 guy. Ferguson's on the way down. I just don't think he's faced the top guys. And not only do I think Oliveira wins, I think he finishes him. And yeah, so I'm all over my man Gam Lou calls him Chucky Olives. So I'm all over Bruntz plus 125, maybe even a plus 130 out there. The odds seem to be getting a little more generous for him. And I'm wondering what excuse me, I'm wondering what you think on this, Dana. Dana.
Hey,
here?
I wish I had it revenue, man. I would break you guys both off. Hey, where are we going this weekend?
Right. I think you stay away from Nunez this week. I think she's got her one foot out the door. Win or lose, I think this is it, because she said yesterday she pretty much she pretty much buried Valentina 3 happening. So I just don't really see any fights that excite her.
I think she likes the domestic life, and I'm not mad at her for it, right? I mean,
dude, she's got so much money. She has got, it's time to get out of this game. So I think maybe even you put a flyer out there on Aldana, but regardless, I think
plus 255 is chunky.
Yeah, I kind of wish it was a little more, to be honest.
That's selfish.
Right? That is kind of
greedy.
That is greedy. But I think win or lose that she leaves her gloves in the octagon Saturday night.
Did you look at the Amavov and Curtis fight?
I was thinking the same thing. Is Curtis going down?
Wait, Chris, I got you.
Yeah,
I have not given this one a hard look. In fact, I'm looking for the odds right now. What are they?
So Curtis is plus 130.
I need to study that one. The only one that I might get involved in, I might go with my guy Eric Anders as a short dog.
What do you got against Mark Andre?
Eric with a Y?
I don't have anything against him. I just love Anders' power. So we'll see.
All right.
But Chucky Olives is my main investment. Bruntz, Oliveira.
You just don't see him at. That's just tempting enough where I think Vegas will pounce anytime you get a focused Oliveira with on the plus side, because he's so dangerous and he's battle tested.
I think he is focused, and I just think Dariush is overrated. Nothing against him. He's been getting W after W. I just don't. Oliveira has faced everybody on the roster. Dariush, he just has not faced a lot of top guys.
I get it.
What about finals MVPs? If Miami were to win this series, would you give it to Buckets or would you give it to Bam?
Well, they would have 3 wins to go, so we would just have to see who plays well in those 3 wins. I don't think you can really say right now,
Yeah, well, I think you can make the assumption though that Jokic would be finals MVP if Denver won.
So that's why 1,000,000%. Well, look, Murray's playing great, but it's Joker would have to get injured and miss a game, I think.
Right.
To not get now, Murray is playing great. In fact, first guy in NBA Finals history to have 10 assists in the first 3 games. I believe I heard that on SportsCenter last night.
It's just weird, you guys, that Denver hasn't scored more than 109, and they're up in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the under is on a 6-1 run now.
What was it last night?
Miami.
213, 214?
Yeah, and so now we're down to 210.5, which I believe that's the lowest. Miami's totals were getting low late in the boss. Oh yeah, that's right. Game 7 was 204.
What's 210? That's 105 apiece, right?
Yeah.
I think both teams eat the clock, but more so Miami.
I don't know. Denver
they
averaged
work
like
the ball.
116, 117 in the regular season. Early on
Then
in
so
the
is it-
playoffs,
then
they
it must
were
be a Miami
rolling.
thing. Like Miami eats clock.
Because I remember, I was like, the only way the Lakers could win this thing is to keep this thing in the low 100s. And now Denver's winning games in the low 100s.
Yeah, I mean, Denver had a stretch there where they scored 124, 118, 125,
Exactly.
122, 108, 119. But here,
Exactly.
yeah, it's been low scoring so far. We'll see.
Well, I mean, you look at Miami, 93, 111,
And then 94.
and then 94.
Yeah, not good. That's
so
not
like
good.
when they're shooting that low,
Not good
you
enough.
don't have to score more than 108 to win games.
Enjoy UFC 289, B.
Gentlemen, y'all have a great weekend. Thanks.
Buddy, you too.
Appreciate you. Mitch Sherman up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet.
Did you really go
stage
first name, last name?
at Hail Varsity Club. I did. DB?
Oh, it's fine. Whatever.
Benning, comma Damon?
I want peace. I was singing a song in my head. OAR.
Oh, but you sang it out loud.
Oh. Is this thing on?
I'm like, what?
I want peace.
I don't know that song.
Really?
Uh-uh.
Yeah, I'm just not singing it correctly. You probably heard it.
Maybe. I'm just not as musically versed as you are.
Operation Guarantee.
I like my things, and that's it. Whoa.
Shane, do we have Mitch or do we not have
He's
Mitch?
here. He's here.
Well, what is Shane doing?
Yeah, right.
Shane,
Can I start with this breaking news before we get to Mitch?
Sure. I just want to know if Shane, are you producing today or are you taking the morning off?
I took the morning off.
Shane, give me some breaking news music. Go ahead.
Da, 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 da. It's slow motion. Better than no motion, I guess.
This just in. The Vikings have informed Dalvin Cook that he's being released.
Shocker.
This just in.
Make too much money, miss too many games.
See you later.
And they got guys to sign.
Mitch Sherman, what do you think about that? Welcome to the show.
Well, the Royals can't sign him, so you probably don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it has some big fantasy football implications.
My guy.
Hey, can he swing a bat, get down to the K? If not, I don't care.
No, I mean, I'm interested in the NFL for sure, but the NFC North is not on my mind right now. But good to hear about those Vikings.
Hey,
I know there's a lot of people out there listening who are tuned in on the Vikings, and the Packers and the Bears and the Chiefs.
It's crazy.
We're a split community on the NFL, that's for sure.
That we are.
I hate to monopolize your time, but I'm going to because you can go a lot of places. It's two baseball questions, actually. The first one is at the collegiate level.
Yes.
Level of surprise. Because I'm sure at some point you probably dug into the numbers or at least are privy with Nebraska's pitching stats. And is it as bad as we think? Is it not as bad as we think? The whole thing, right? You're a baseball guy. Level of surprise that Coach Bolt parted with Coach Christie so soon, albeit amicably.
Not shocked because I think they're when you have a stretch like Nebraska's had over the past couple of years, coming off of a real promising season with the regional back in 21, I think it requires some kind of an adjustment with the program, not necessarily for a full-time coach to get let go or a major change like that, but something. And they made some change. They had a big roster change last year, so they kind of went that direction where they hit the portal hard and flipped quite a bit on the roster. And I think that was year one of some unexpected struggles. That was a response to it then. So I don't know that that's the answer again. And there will be, again, some significant change to the roster, and they're going to look through the portal and find a bunch of guys, I would imagine. But I think you needed to do something else different, whether it's a philosophical change or an organizational restructure, whatever it might be. It needed to be, you can't just continue to do the same thing and expect different results. So here we are. And pitching coach, I mean, it's the easy don't know about easy, but it's the it seems to be the appropriate choice. Although Nebraska as a pitching
that
staff,
everybody was harping on before you actually dig into the numbers, right?
Yeah, Nebraska as a pitching staff statistically was not bad. You look at the earned run average, and it sits pretty well. It's top 50 in the country, which when there's 300 baseball programs, or
typically not a fireable offense,
right?
Yeah, it's pretty decent. I was looking through some ERA numbers this morning, not in any way related to Nebraska. It was about super regional matchups, and I was curious about that Oregon Oral Roberts matchup, because in our little preview that we'll have out tomorrow on The Athletic as part of you can get college baseball, a lot of college baseball coverage on The Athletic, by the way, in front of the paywall without even subscribing. And then hopefully you'll read it and subscribe. So last weekend, this weekend, all during the CWS, we'll have a lot of insight and updates on our live college baseball feed. And
I'm not just shilling because it's you. The Athletic, and I told you this a couple weeks ago, it's taken over my scoring app for scores in sports ahead of ESPN, because ESPN is not as current. Like, I went to scores and odds for a while, but now and I can customize the way that the page looks for the Athletic and their scoring app.
Well,
I can get everything.
Horrible for college.
Yeah, it's like they've been the next iteration of The Athletic is not just the in-depth, long-form stories and features on players and teams and coaches. It's up to date with news and scores and all that. So it's great. But I was looking at some numbers because I'm taking Oregon as my team that should be on upset alert. I had Oral Roberts last weekend to win. Maybe not win the regional, but to be a dark horse at Oklahoma State, and then Oral Roberts goes and wins the regional. And I'm going to ride that train all the way to Omaha. And Oregon pitching numbers, and Oregon's in a super regional, playing in the Pac-12. Pitching numbers considerably worse in comparison to Nebraska. I just noticed that Nebraska was there in the top 50 of ERA, and Oregon was not, as I was looking through those numbers. So, that said, I'm not surprised, because I think it was inevitable. There was going to be some kind of a staff shakeup, and this is kind of the direction it's been trending. And we'll see what happens with Rob Childress.
That's what I was going to say.
You have a proven, overqualified, experienced
development player, director of development.
Right.
He's done it before at Nebraska in the greatest period of baseball in school history.
I'm team Mitch Sherman for that pick and for that follow-up point. Speaking of being on a team of a person, we'll say team of people in this case. Mitch, I should ask this first because I don't want to assume. I think I've done that once before and I was wrong, and I don't want to ever assume again. Were you down in Texas with the team?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was in Houston on Tuesday.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Now my question, it works again. Because if not, I would have been like,
Golly, so traveling, man.
So, Mitch, two of the youngest guys on staff showing out in a big way while down in Texas. And you wrote about it. You wrote about the energy of McGuire and the resourcefulness and the eye for talent that Cooper has.
Yeah.
So outside of that just being the observation, how important is that tandem during camp season specifically?
Yeah, it's really important. And those are guys that I think that players are drawn to, that high school coaches are drawn to. They both have a charisma and just kind of an it factor for different reasons entirely. Because when you watch, and we got to watch some of practice, and I know you saw more than I did, Damon, in the spring, but even in the little snippets of practice, 3 or 4 30-minute windows that I saw in the spring, you could tell when you're on the practice field, I always know where Garrett McGuire and Evan Cooper are. It's like there's some kind of for me, there's like a light above their heads that I just see them on the field. And first of all, in Cooper's case, it can be for a lot of different reasons, because most of the time, and this was evident at the camp, and I don't think it's as evident on the Nebraska practice field where he knows everyone that he's working with. And it's not like he's just studying the talent, although he does, I think, evaluate the players even after they're in the program. And
He'd watch film all day, every day if he could.
Yeah, and he does. Well, the first time I met Evan in person was in Charlotte at the AFCA convention in January, and everybody was working the room, all the Nebraska coaches at an event, the Texas High School Coaches Association event. And Coop was sitting at a table on his phone watching huddle film.
Yeah.
It's just what he does all the time. And, then he gets up and does the social, interaction also, but film and studying is number one. And you talk to Matt Rule about Evan Cooper, and it's evident how much he values Evan's eye for everything when it comes to football, not just recruiting, but also evaluating the talent on the roster. So when he's at practice, I always tend to just see him, and I'm really curious about what he's doing. And with Garrett, it's just constant energy. Like, it must be a thing where you're 24 years old and you just go all the time. But it's not even that. Like, you see the guys who are 22 and 20 and 18 and have the pads on, and they don't have, in most cases, the kind of, just constant on switch that he does. And I think it's a gift that he's got, and that because you can always be going, but not really know what to do. And then you're going to be out there looking kind of goofy because you're just that weird guy who doesn't ever stop talking. And that's not the case at all with McGuire, because every time I've been around him and seen him in action around players, there's always important, helpful things coming out of his mouth as he's working with these guys nonstop, and the drills that he has them running. It doesn't ever seem like there's inefficient use of his time. So he's on the go, and then Cooper's in the background, like, just kind of figuring out what the next move is. And at the camp on Tuesday, as the players ran, you had maybe 250, 300 players there. And it was a little bit disorganized because they're not wearing numbers on their shirts. They're just guys out there. And, Cooper was like methodically sifting through the group, and he picked in the first 15 or 20 minutes that they were on the field, like 8 guys out of the 200 and some that he wanted to see. And he pulled them aside and put them in like a hotline so that Rule and Satterfield and Tony White could then get eyes on the players who Coop picked to showcase. And they ended up offering 3 of those guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wow. You talked about film, and I was joking with Andrew. Caleb's down there tomorrow all day or in the morning with Coop, and intentionally, like, I'm not going to be there. It's just something about the way that he likes to study and his attention to detail and his competitiveness. Like, even his words are competitive. You've been around those efficient guys. Like, when they're giving you instruction, it's to motivate to move forward. It's not just talking to be talking. Like, I think both those guys that you talked about with Coop and McGuire, and I don't know if it's an age thing or youthful exuberance, but the words that they try to speak into you typically motivate rather than tear down.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said Coop is young. He's 36, and I like it when 36 is young in coaching. So, but and I'm way older than 36, but it makes me feel
hey, you don't
okay.
look.
Yeah,
but listen,
makes me
feel having okay. To your mornings because your kiddo's at camp. You're officially not young anymore, Mitch. So we appreciate you joining us.
Hey, look, that was my young one. My youngest of the 2, who was up at camp at the new high school this morning. And I got into the school this morning for the first time since it's been basically done at Gretna East, and got a preview of the some of the facilities in there. So that was fun this morning, watching Coach Haberman's team out on the.
How is the old Taj Mahal? Because he's instant energy.
Yeah, I got a sense of that. My middle schooler was working out on the cross country team.
This guy's
on
crazy.
The track. And so the football team was on the field, and I watched them. And that's the first time I've been around Justin.
Looks like he's got good numbers.
What's that?
Looks like he's got good numbers.
They had about 100 guys out there this morning.
Is that all?
Or just below that. And I mean, there's no seniors. So this is 3 classes, and numbers are okay. talent, skill, and size, they're going to be a little behind what people in Gretna are used to.
Mitch, go ahead. You want it?
No, that's just funny. Let me ask you something, Mitch, because we've been talking about this recruiting thing, and you were at camp. You know the coaches' personalities. The news surfaces yesterday about Davon Hall and kind of Nebraska no longer wanting to recruit him for whatever the reason. But you watch, and you saw Gretna and Bellevue West twice, I'm sure. Both Gretna comebacks, right? So you're
hey. I don't want to talk about the first game. I was there until there were 7 minutes.
It's called leaving early.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying this at one point.
Okay, so
maybe it's just on Twitter.
Knowing this staff's personality, watching them at camp, seeing those two games, is the recruiting energy match your eyesight in terms of you watching the games, who they're interested in, who they're not interested in? You know, Mason Goldman, he's there. Ashton Murphy, some of these, I said Ashton Murphy, wrong, different school. The guys that they're putting their recruiting energy in, does it match what you see when you watch the games?
For the most part. Look, there's always players, and Gretna's been really good at this in the last few years. There's always players who stand out in a big-time way on a high school field. You know, whether they're going against a team with high-level talent at skill spots like Bellevue West, or they're going against, you know, a lower-level Class A team. There's always players who stand out that are not necessarily Power 5 talents. You know, some of them will become walk-ons at the Power 5 level, and, you know, with the full ability to then go and earn a scholarship. And, you know, Corver Dema fits in that right in that category. I mean, you watch Corver Dema play, and you'd think, I think you really have to get into the numbers to understand what the difference is. Like, I mean, take him out and have him run and do all that stuff to understand, why isn't this guy a high-level scholarship player? I trust the coach's evaluation of him, but I think he's got an opportunity.
2 years ago in our state finals, you could have made the case he was the best defensive player on the field.
There were a lot of times when I watched Gretna play this year where I thought he was the best player on the field, you know, and on the defensive side for Gretna. And, you know, Mason's was awesome. I mean, he was a force, especially as a senior when he was healthy. But there's also those guys, you know, who end up being FCS or D2 players that just look lights out in those kind of games. So I would say no. I mean, to answer your question, you can't always just watch the games and understand like how that impacts recruiting. Because for Gretna, where they did a nice job because they had a Power 5 quarterback who could put his players in great positions, receivers and running backs and tight ends in great positions. Zane made those guys look better than they were. And I'm not saying they aren't good, but there were, you know, guys who were going to end up at Augustana and smaller schools that looked like, he could play at South Dakota State, or he could play at Northern Illinois, when, you know, if they didn't have Zane Flores thrown to them, it wouldn't be like that. So, and then, you know, on the other side, you're talking about the two games between Gretna and Bell West. Yeah, I mean, it was evident at the receiver spots, you know, this last year with Daniel Kalen at quarterback, that you were watching. When you watch those guys, it's, you know, whether it's in a practice or a camp or in a game, it's very evident that you're watching not just a FBS player, but a Big 10, Big 12, SEC kind of guy.
It's just amazing having watched those films so much, thinking both those schools could be on our radar in the playoffs. I go back, and you know this because you watch a lot of youth sports and high school sports. You got young kids, and you're following recruiting. The things that we take for granted that couldn't happen in that game for Bellevue West, like simply getting a first down to keep the ball, to keep it from going back to Gretna, like things that you think are so simple that it would be below their talent, that are just so hard to do sometimes in a high school competitive environment, that I think fans and fan bases take for granted when they look at recruiting and stuff like that. Like, there are so many intrinsic things and non-tangible things that have to happen in order for things to really start to get momentum. Those were two crazy games to watch unfold.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could play that final 10 minutes or 8 minutes of that first game 15 times or 20 times again, and it's not going to unfold like that. I mean, multiple again, I missed it because I was in my car going home, but multiple onside kick recoveries, I believe, in that comeback. So that wasn't just like the the momentum and the talent and the coaching and that was like a lot of good fortune that also went into the way that game went. But it was so interesting, and people are going to talk about that game, I think, for years to come because of the two guys who were
quarterbacking
in charge of the offenses, the quarterbacks of that game. Right now, Zane and Danny are in a spot in the hierarchy of Nebraska high school football quarterback history. They're like, right up there at the top, sitting on the chair at the top. I mean, both of these, Zane went to the Elite 11 finals last year. Kalen's going to the Elite 11 finals next week. That's it. There's the list right there of players from Nebraska high schools who have made it to that event. So, yeah, one in the Big 10, one in the Big 12. It's going to be, take what I do and what you do out of the equation. It's just going to be fun to be anybody who enjoys football and watches football at the high school and college level in the state to watch the careers of those two and see what directions they go over the next several years.
Mitch, on a larger scale, the Big Ten will release its schedule format today, with multiple sources claiming the Flex Protect model as the front runner up to 3 annual rivals. So I kind of want to ask you this now, because they're going to go without divisions too. Who do you think Nebraska will make up their 3 rivals to be? And how much, because I thought about this with the expansion of the Big Ten, how much will the no division look help the future growth of the conference as they keep trying to get bigger and bigger?
If that's the goal of the conference, then, it's got to be no divisions. And, we're going to hear from Tony Petitti today on BTN talking about this flex hybrid model. And I don't know if he's going to address that. I think some dominoes that fall in the sport are going to help dictate what the Big Ten does. It's not like just the Big Ten operating in a vacuum that is going to determine, whether it moves ahead in adding teams beyond 16. Some of it's going to have to do, the very basic, easy answer to that is what's going to happen with the Big 12. And if the Big 12 adds Colorado and Arizona, as has
appear to be falling up, the Big 12 it's not a good spot.
and maybe Utah and Arizona State, well, then the Pac-12 is done. And you got Oregon and Washington sitting out there. And does the Big Ten want to gobble them up? It's a simple yes or no. And because if it's yes, then they're going. So I think, scratching the divisions will make it more seamless. If the Big Ten does want to go to 18 or go to 20, it's an easier call, an easier thing to do. I think when people see the schedules today, there's going to be a little bit of a surprise. Like if you're a Nebraska fan and you look at the way the schedules look over the next couple of years, they'll release 24 and 25 today on the show. You're going to go, oh, okay. Well, you're still Nebraska's going to play every team in the first 2 years, every team in the league, and Nebraska's going to play every team twice in the first 4 years. So just because you've gotten bigger as a conference doesn't mean that you're going to go years and years without seeing these teams. In fact, you're going to see teams more often than you did in the division model because you're not constricted to your own division. As Nebraska went how long without playing Michigan before this stretch where it's had them the last couple of years? And how many times has Nebraska played Indiana? These things with the East teams, they go on and on and on, and you don't see them. That's not going to be the case, even with 2 more teams being added. To answer the first part of your question, Andrew,
is it the simple 3? Is it Iowa?
Not 3. No, it's not. They're not going to have 3. They're going to have. Well, watch the show.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Mitch, appreciate you, buddy.
Good teaser. Thanks,
All right,
Mitch.
guys. Take care.
Love that guy.
Yeah, Mitch Sherman. He's one of a kind. Nebraska writer for The Athletic.
Watch
at
the
Mitch
show.
Sherman on Twitter. Oh, looks like I know what my afternoon plans are.
Yeah, be watching the show.
Six-pack extended. Excuse me. Next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
DB, there I am. I told DB that if we weren't show hosts, our profession of choice would be nurses because we've been nursing our beers since 8:30.
Yeah, copper alt.
I wish I had a copper alt right now.
You like that warm beer over there?
I actually put it back in the fridge and got it back, Shane.
So apparently they have tools to
keep it
make
cold?
sure you grind up your powder.
Oh, we're back on the powder.
Oh, as you can see.
Yeah, that looks like lemonade that you just mixed one time and said, yeah, we're good.
It's kind of, I guess it's dissolving. There'll probably be flecks in there when I'm done, like PJ. Or Peach, as some people like to call him on social media.
I don't know anybody that called him that, but okay.
Yeah, I would. That's Coach. All out of respect. By the way, they got one of their good safeties in the 2024 class. Not that I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
Shane-o!
You're keeping a close eye.
I'm not. I just look.
It's good to be in the know.
I just follow what I'm told.
That's what I'm saying. It's good to be in the know.
Some weirdos pound mayonnaise. Others enjoy mustard straight out of the jar when watching a
I
baseball
saw those
game.
guys in the stands.
Who the hell are these people?
Dude, they're not making this up. I watched this
weirdos.
morning
They're
on Sports
psychopaths.
Center.
Both absolutely disgusting to me, but if you had to choose a condiment to smash during a baseball game, during a ball game, what are you scooping out of the jar?
So not just between the two, any condiment?
Any condiment. I am going to eat the condiment DB does not like.
Ketchup.
The very acidic barbecue sauce.
That's mildly disgusting.
Oh. It's way better than mayo.
So wait, do I have to eat it in bulk?
Got to eat it out of the jar with the big spoon like they do.
So the one that I could easily eat out of the jar, there's two. Stone ground Dijon.
Okay.
And creamy horseradish.
Ugh. Horseradish?
Creamy, not fresh.
Ugh.
So, but I couldn't eat either of those for very long. But those would be my two. You know what I could never eat out of the jar? Mayonnaise.
That is disgusting.
Especially, like, that dude had on a tank, so I'm assuming it was warm.
Well, and he's like this. He's
little
hunched over, right on the belly.
Nothing is more cringeworthy than warm mayo.
I feel like didn't he have a big wooden spoon?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, he was like just hanging out. Yeah, there's no way. I would go with stone ground mustard.
And how do you order that?
Or creamy horseradish.
Because you can't bring it into the game. So do you just take it from the condiment station?
I don't know.
And no one gets
it looked
mad?
like one he would have gotten from like the restaurant shop or Costco. It was big.
Right, but you can't bring food in. So that's why I'm like, how did you get this? Did you just go into the storage
Maybe
closet?
he just took the squirt dispenser out.
And that's what I'm asking, right?
Just,
but you wouldn't, as a ballpark, as a staff, you wouldn't be mad about that?
Is mayo an option at a lot of those places?
I don't think so. I think it's just ketchup and mustard. Maybe relish?
I don't know. Maybe mayo's making a comeback.
But at the same time, the guy that was eating mustard had a jar too. It wasn't like a bag. You wouldn't catch me dead eating a condiment. For the sake of the question, it'd be BBQ.
Could you put peanut butter in there?
I would eat peanut butter out
I
of
don't
the jar.
think that's a condiment, but I could eat that out of the jar.
I could eat the whole thing too.
I couldn't, but I would. That'd be my first choice.
100%. Because that's at least reasonable.
Yeah. Shane over there just cramming Cheese Whiz down his cake hole.
Oh, yeah.
You like Cheese Whiz?
Yeah, Cheese Whiz is good. Ugh. It better be for $10 a deal.
Cheese Whiz is
$10?
I bet you it's probably like $10 a can.
No way. Whipped cream isn't even that high.
Let's take a look.
There's
see
no
it.
way. It's got to be like $2 to $3 for a can of Cheese Whiz.
Dude, he's spot on.
It's $10.
13.
Who's buying that?
I don't understand. Well, it's not even real cheese. Dude, Velveeta's expensive too, though.
Oh, okay. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the easy cheese out of the bottle. Is that what you're talking about,
But it's
Shane?
still high.
This one says $5. That's
So
what I'm
just a
thinking.
little squirt where the where the bend thing always breaks?
Yes, like you're putting whipped cream on ice cream. Yeah.
Dude, seriously. Did you see Annabelle gave me that can of Spam that was passed around the office?
No.
I was the low man on the totem pole that got the Spam.
Is that because you only have Troy Polamalu in your
I told
office?
you that old school place, Refs, not the new one, but the old one in the little retail place. They have a Spam and grilled cheese sandwich. Like for sale.
Would
It's
you
like
ever order it?
$11. No.
Just curious.
I paid for grilled cheese in public once, and that was about 5 years ago. I was at local, and they added chorizo to it.
This jar of Cheese Whiz from Walmart,
Yeah.
$5.
Plain label?
Kraft.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I'm looking at then. This one says maybe it's different sizes. 450 grams. It's $13.
This one's 15 ounces, 425 grams.
Should we be on a different system? Because we're not in the UK. What's with the whole metric thing? Shane, go ahead. Question what? Well, it still aggravates me. I filled up my fish water yesterday, and the guy goes, "What is that? About 2.5 liters?" And I was like,
A liter.
liter.
Listen, he was super cool, and
Have
I'm
a liter
there.
of cola?
I'm there all the time. I'm like, do I look like a guy that understands the liter system? I don't know if this is 2.5 liters. It's the container that comes from from you guys. How much is in here?
Exactly.
I know. I know gallons.
I think that's roughly 2.5 liters. Are we putting soda bottles
He has
together?
no idea how many
or-
times I ask Alexa about conversions.
I do that all the time.
Dude, it's like the number one thing I ask her outside of weather.
Question number 6. Jim wants to know, what's a liter? No, I'm just kidding.
That's a Tim Miles.
I listen to the show every day, and often you talk about the 2024 recruits and the top 7 to 9 guys. Are you shocked to see the rumors swirling over the 2025 commit prior to some of the other top 2024s?
No, because I think that's a fantastic question. It's a great question. So the player in which I think it is, I talked to his family last week, and he said it was coming because he's over the recruiting process.
Yeah, I think it's everybody's on their own time.
And
it's your timeline. You choose.
and he's a well-traveled kid. I just think he's tired. But that is interesting, right? You get a prize get in 25 before,
and it's guys that we've mentioned on the show, but
because we still don't respect Kalen enough. Like we just think we talk about Kalen like, oh, they didn't get their guy, so I want this guy.
Take it for granted,
right? Like we don't give him his due. But so the next couple that say yes, I think will.
And I also don't think this is going to speed up any of those 24s either, because they're on their own time right now. They're just doing them. We heard McMorris say Sauter met with them yesterday that he's going to have a list by the time the season starts, whether his top 5 are going to look with Nebraska on it or not. He'll have a list. So everybody's just kind of on their own time right now. They work through the process themselves. And if a 2025 guy's ready to commit, he's ready to go.
You know, the interesting thing about that is, I was talking with the Nebraska hype man, and Danny said this on the Let It Fly show with Severe and Josh. So I'm not saying anything he didn't say out loud, but he's like, yeah, I'm obviously trying to get guys out of this class. He's like, I'm talking to my boy Caleb Benning over at Westside. And I asked Caleb, because, of course, Caleb doesn't tell me anything. I'm like, Caleb, is this true? And this dude looked dead at me, and he's like, yeah, man, that's my boy DK. I was like, oh, so now we're thinking Steve's, right? Do you realize we play them in week 3? No, seriously, I felt some type of way.
Bro.
No, tell me. Tell me if we were friends with the enemy. No, I'm just kidding.
That's good. You'd be friends up until the game, up until the week.
Because I didn't know if he was saying it for just rate or for the pod, or was it legit? And Caleb was like, no, man, this dude is legit.
So that's good, because then week of, he'll be like, I'm going to pick you off twice. They'll have some friendly banter.
Hey, don't think we're not going to try to treat those guys
bad,
bad,
they'll
man.
dap each other up, and they'll be like, yeah, this was sweet.
Personal. His coach told me during the recruiting day, yeah, I can't wait to play you guys. I was like, hey, man, say hello to me first. We're boys.
You're just hurting still.
Hey, I know I felt some type of way, but I like Huffman, so I don't care. All right, Shane, what do we got? 6 or are we done?
That's it. That's the Sports Six Pack.
Yeah, the 25 thing is, and I know you're big on let the kids break the news.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said it. I mean, everybody's trying to go back and backtrack and piece together clues, and they're putting together Knighton and
I'm just big on the kids. I want the kids to have that moment for them.
As long as the recruiting guys don't do it, I'm fine. If the school hints to it, that's cool.
I never thought of it that way.
Well, see, now we're even because you're the one that sent me down the rabbit hole of the dorms and living with friends.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought of it from the coach perspective, but at the same time, I feel like the coaches would want to let the kid break it before they stir up the fan base. I don't know. The coaches could wait. They could wait their turn.
They're just excited.
Are you excited?
It's exciting.
Michael Bruntz up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. I'm just going through the comments right now of what people would eat at a baseball game. And 515 Dave says gross TV, probably to the horseradish comment, like I said.
Really?
Yeah, that's just, I think that is an acquired taste, and there's very little people that actually like it. Like if it's mixed in with something, because there's horseradish and barbecue sauce.
All right.
But just eating straight horseradish.
Stop. I'm going to ask one of the smart guys.
So nacho cheese is on here. Is that a condiment?
No.
No. Right? Sauerkraut?
I think you could.
Yeah, because Ken goes sauerkraut, maybe.
Maybe, but it's a standalone. Let's ask the expert.
And then
He's
he
the
has his
smart
coffee
guy.
and cream and a condiment.
Let's ask the smart guy.
Michael Bruntz here with us now. What's up, Bruntsy?
Hello?
Hello? Is this thing on? You
Hello?
guys are talking about nonsense and you're killing my minutes. Bruntzy, you're a baseball head. You've been to several hundred games. Is there a condiment that you would eat straight out of the jar? And if so, what is it?
Straight out of the jar?
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I could go straight spicy mustard, I think.
I said spicy mustard or creamy horseradish.
I could. Are we considering relish a?
That is a condiment. That's a
I could do
relish.
Either of those.
I could do relish too.
You know what? And that's probably actually safe. I don't eat it, but basically it's chopped pickles.
It's just pickles.
Shut up, Shane. Bruntzy.
You know what they used to have at Haymarket Park? They used to, and then COVID killed it, thank God. But they
tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, they used to have like the little condiment tray out there, so you could help yourself. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm 99% sure they used to have like sauerkraut sitting in there, and it would just be like bacon in that concourse for like 3 hours at a midweek game. And I'm like, I don't mind sauerkraut, but you couldn't pay me enough to go in there. Like, who knows who's like put their finger in there, and it's bad.
It's like a kid's play box.
So I don't know if you saw like the snippets on MLB and ESPN, but there were two different guys in two different stadiums. One was eating mustard.
Mm-hmm.
The other was eating mayo. Can you imagine eating mayo in the sun?
No, I don't eat mayo in any kind of weather.
Yeah, I don't need mayo in the AC.
Okay.
That's bad.
I do have sriracha mayo in the fridge as a condiment, and I don't think I've taken the foil tab off of it yet, so I don't think it's been open yet. But does sriracha mayo, is that a no-go?
Yeah, you're not a big aioli guy?
I like aioli. I have one that I bought from a bougie place around town that I will not admit that I shop at that is that I actually use for sandwiches now. It has kind of the stone ground mustard hue to it, but I use it for, I mean, you could basically put it on anything. And it's a little narrow bottle.
Like a gateway drug to mayo.
Yes. Yep. And he's selling it on the black market for cheap.
That's why I was trying to get at. I was like, are you just kind of?
He's our distributor.
Gateway drug. That's great. Because I do have like 6 or 7 different mustards in my house.
Okay.
I know it seems.
You don't do ketchup on the hot dog, though, right?
I don't do ketchup at all.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
That's a Zoe and Caleb thing. Nobody else in the house eats ketchup.
Okay. So you're a grown man. You shouldn't be eating ketchup.
Correct.
I'm still a young boy, so I can eat ketchup,
I don't
right?
eat boneless wings either. Bruntzy's scapegoat. We were talking to Mitch Sherman, another baseball head, and he actually just tweeted some stats. He was looking at earned run averages for the College World Series, getting ready for a story. And you and I have made this case talking with AR-15 over here that Nebraska's pitching inside the numbers, right? Top 3 in the league in a lot of areas. Maybe not as bad as some. Did it ultimately boil down to a weekend starter? Convenient scapegoat, picking low-hanging fruit, or makes the most sense that Bolt has to part ways or did part ways with Christie?
Yeah, I mean, the pitching piece of it is kind of what's made this team, this
last year's team the hardest to kind of like wrap your arms around, right? Because the numbers are good. You know, if you kind of, I was thinking about this the other day after they announced the move that, you know, Will, after they lost to Maryland, I mean, one of the things that he said that really kind of stood out to me was they need to find a way to develop sufficient pitching depth. I mean, and you know, that to me was more of the issue there with the pitching staff is, you know, you were relying on a very small pool of pitchers who were very good for most of the season. But, you know, when you got to Sunday, when you got to midweeks, I mean, that's when your depth or lack thereof really shows up. And I think that's ultimately, you know, why they kind of had to go a different direction there. You know, the thing about it is too, I mean, you know, you missed the tournament, the Big Ten tournament last year. You know, you kind of struggle at times this year too. I mean, I don't think you can probably run it back as is for a third straight year there. So, and just looking at the roster the way it is now, you know, as we're talking today, I mean, they're going to have to find some pitching depth, whether that's the portal, you know, find some late JUCO guys or something. So, you know, I don't know that the depth piece of it was really trending in the right direction there, which, I mean, that's a big concern.
Bruntz, I want to take advantage of you in the short time, so I'm going to go to football here and talk recruiting because I think it was a 24/7 story that I read yesterday regarding a conversation with the McGuire family.
You read?
And the sharing of – do I read? Sometimes.
I'm sorry. Sorry, carry on.
I can't read. Sharing intel is more of like a high school thing when you talk about like film, but never in college, and especially never a thing when it comes to recruits. But the information I read left my mind in a pretzel when I saw Joey McGuire shared information with Garrett about someone Texas Tech was recruiting and said Nebraska should recruit that player too. And so I want to ask, have I been living under a rock, or is this something that happens with those relationally connected often?
I don't know. I mean, my dad is not a very good football coach. But I have to say though, when you look at offers, and you know, the McGuire family, I mean, they're coming at evaluations from the same place. I mean, they're looking for tools, they're looking for you know, verified track numbers, and that kind of stuff too. So yeah, I mean, I think there was a few guys that, you know, name came up here or there that, you know, probably fit the profile that both programs were looking at. I think that, you know, that was one of our other reporters, Will Turboff, wrote that, that, you know, yeah, you kind of say, hey, you know, this is a guy that, you know, probably fits what you're looking for in that area. And, you know, I don't think it happens all the time, but I think if it's a guy that kind of makes sense anyways, you're just going to talk about them. I mean, if it's somebody that's like a legit diamond in the rough, or, you know, you're kind of trying to keep them away, you know, from other programs, you probably don't mention it. But, you know, it's interesting because when you look at offers that Nebraska will make, like in the 25 class, and if it's a guy that, you know, doesn't have a lot of Power 5 offers, or Nebraska's one of his first Power 5 offers, it's startling how often that other offer is usually Texas Tech. I mean, that's just
it's weird, something
that we've noticed. But I mean, that's how they evaluate. That's what they look for. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're in on a lot of the same guys. Even, you know, Jalen Lloyd's a good example of that. I mean, Texas Tech was recruiting him for football too, and you know, they obviously saw something that Nebraska saw as well. And I think that's going to continue to happen as long as Joey McGuire's at Texas Tech.
Bruntz, before we let you go, Twitter loves Michael Bruntz. Bruntz, we bring the best out in you. That's what I just keep telling myself. It's not your own natural talent and sense of humor. There's no way. Everybody's like, Gateway to Mayo's got me in stitches. Bruntz, low-hanging fruit, natural ebb and flow, or not so fast on Rob Childress being an heir apparent?
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you walk in the facility and you've got a coach that took Texas A&M to the College World Series sitting at the front desk there. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd have to ask Rob if he would want the job. I mean, I think
It's weird how we undersell that aspect, isn't it? Does he want to be the coach?
I mean, I think, coming off of that experience at A&M, I think he needed a bit of a reset. He'd been there a long time. It didn't end real well at the end. And, I think there's something to be said for what he's been doing the last couple of years with, being able to have the family time, being able to be around the team. I mean, he helps out a ton. Don't get me wrong. But, I think that's probably the aspect that maybe isn't being discussed as much, along with this is a slam dunk. He is absolutely, credential-wise, makes a ton of sense. It's just a matter of, whether he wants that or what, if he wants to get back in as a head coach, because there's opportunities out there too that I think if he really wanted to go after, he would have gotten by now. So that's something I think that probably needs to enter the conversation a little bit more, just where his head's at in terms of what he wants to do at this point in his career.
Michael Bruntz, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being flexible today, and we'll talk again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruntzy.
Senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz on Twitter.
I wanted to ask him about Harris just dealing the Pirates fits yesterday. How about the Vegas vote kind of being in limbo?
Now, did you see that? I think it was like 85% of the bets that when they went up 7-0 were on the Pirates 1.5.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think I said that.
Yeah, you said it. You said yeah.
I think I was that guy.
You're such a I gotta introduce you to my man Aaron, because remember he's in my phone as degenerate,
and I'm close to that.
Kinda. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just sent me a picture of a fish that he just caught. I don't know when that dude works.
Some of us just don't, right?
Must be rough.
We'll be back tomorrow.